And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. It's such a privilege to be here with Aryeh here in Missouri City, Congregation Beth every Thursday night at 7:30. We started off with some preview tonight. We had some interesting conversation. So thank you to all of our friends on Facebook and soon on YouTube for joining us in our weekly installment of the Parsha Minute from Missouri City, Sugar Land, Texas. So in this week's Parsha, we have the incredible teachings of how we treat our servants. How do you treat your Jewish servants? And it is incredible, the rules that are applicable to a master. So some of the Torah laws concerning the Hebrew slave. One of them is it is forbidden to give him lowly jobs to do, such as washing his master's feet or putting his master's shoes on, right? Even if these same jobs would willingly be performed by a son for his father or by a student for his master, right? You're not allowed to make your Jewish servant do that. The master must share with his slave whatever food he has. And if he eats white bread, he needs to feed his servant white bread. If he eats dark bread, he feeds his servant dark bread. If he drinks wine, he has to feed him. He's not allowed to feed his servant water. Whatever bed he sleeps on, a good bed, he needs to give his servant a good bed. If the master only has one good loaf of bread or one good cup of wine, right, he gives it to his slave. If he only has one pillow, the master must give it to his slave and sleep on the ground. And if the master had if the slave had a certain profession before he entered his service, it is forbidden to ask him to do any type of labor other than that which he is used to. Okay? And it talks about how long he needs to be a slave, for 6 years, and if he wants to stay there, then it's another. If he wants to stay after, he gets drilled in the ear, and he stays till the Jubilee. And it talks about what happens if he's married, if he gets married, so on and so forth. The master needs to support his servant's new wife. Okay, so here's the question now. The question is, these ethics that we spoke about this morning in the Beth Yeshurun class, that in Judaism we have absolute truth. We don't have relative truth. We don't have societal truth. We have absolute truth. And the question that what I want to talk about today is a little bit of understanding how we take the words that are written in the Torah, how many people, through their theories, various theories, which I think are completely wrong and against the Torah, of questioning the authenticity of the Torah, questioning the relevance of every word of the Torah, and so on and so forth. So we see that the Torah has many times that it gives a shorthand explanation, okay? Where you cannot, we've said this numerous times, the Torah tells us one thing. It tells us what to do. It doesn't tell us how to do. And the way the Almighty designed the Torah is that it must come along with an oral Torah. You cannot understand the Torah whatsoever, the God-given Torah that was given to Moses at Mount Sinai, and through the 40 years in the desert dictated to Moses, and confirmed right before his death in 13 different copies, one for each tribe, and one that went into the ark, which was at the center of the tabernacle. So you have to link the two of the oral law and the written law. Otherwise, one doesn't make sense without the other. Okay, I'll give you an example. We have the teaching of Shabbos, right? The Torah tells us in Exodus numerous times, in Leviticus, in Numbers, Deuteronomy, again and again and again. Work 6 days, rest on the seventh. Don't light a fire on the seventh, right? Keep the Shabbos. But that's it says. it doesn't tell us all of the details. Right? We know that there are many more details than just not lighting a fire on Shabbos. Where do we learn them from? Right? The Talmud goes and teaches us the 39 different laws that are derived from those verses, using the laws of juxtaposition, where the Torah is always telling us about Shabbos right next to the building of the tabernacle. It says, build my tabernacle so and so, such and such, right? This measurement, that measurement. And then it says, and don't build my tabernacle on Shabbos, keep my Shabbos. Keep my Shabbos. Remember my Shabbos. And back to the building of the tabernacle, back to the design of the tabernacle, don't do it on Shabbos. So what our sages teach us, again, you have to understand, there's an unbroken chain. I have the copy here. Anybody out there who's looking for the copy, we have in the Torch Center, in the classroom, you can look, we have the direct master to student, or rabbi to student, all the way from God giving Moses at Mount Sinai, the teaching of the Torah, all the way till us, you and I, learning here tonight. Teacher, student, teacher, student, teacher, student, all the way through about 120 generations, I believe it is. Plenty of generations, right? Every single one. And we have all the years that each of them lived. All the way to us learning here. That means the Torah that I learned from my rabbi, that he learned from his rabbi with an unbroken chain. So one of the things Maimonides declares right at the onset of his works is that it's a mistake if anybody thinks that just some rabbis decided to write the Mishnah or decided to just write the Halacha. Everything, Moses had notes. Imagine this. Imagine you go to a class. Of course, you're in college, right? So you go to college and you have your outline, and you have the reading material that you need to read for your class, and now you come for the lecture, and you start taking some notes. Now you can't write that fast that you can write every single word, right? So you do shorthand, and you take he said a story about that, and then he connected it to this, and he said that, and he said this, and said that in shorthand, right? That is the Torah. The Torah is shorthand to what was a very long and lengthy, detailed, oral teaching that was given to Moses, that was later taught to Aaron, and taught to the elders, and so on and so forth. We see ritual slaughter, right? The Torah tells us that if you want to eat of any meat of a kosher animal, no problem, you can eat, but you just have to slaughter it first. Does it say how to? It doesn't say how to. Interesting what Rashi tells us. Rashi says, on the verse in Deuteronomy 12, 20, 21, it says as follows. Somewhere, the Torah must provide information for how to do kosher slaughter. Right? That's what Rashi, the commentator, is saying about this verse, because it doesn't say any place. Right? It is therefore obvious that God also gave Moses an oral Torah at Mount Sinai. Anyone here familiar with the mezuzah? We're all familiar with the mezuzah. It's not a Jew who doesn't know what a mezuzah is, hopefully. We all know what a mezuzah is. Why should we have a mezuzah on our door? Because the Torah says, really. Torah says. So we keep the biblical commandment to put a mezuzah on our door. I'll come and I'll ask and I'll say, it's very nice, Barry, mezuzah on your front door, but if you don't mind me asking, what is a mezuzah? Oh, come on. You're telling me you don't know what a mezuzah is? Everybody knows. Where do we know what a mezuzah is? And the answer is, the Torah doesn't tell us what a mezuzah is. It just says, put it on your door. So if we take the literal words of the Torah, we do not know how to perform the mitzvahs. We don't know how to slaughter an animal. We don't know what a mezuzah is. We don't either know what tefillin are. Right? There's no way in the world you will ever know what tefillin are, but we all know it's square, it's black, right? And we put it up here at the beginning of our hairline and on our arm opposite our heart. But that's not what the Torah tells us. Right? The Torah doesn't tell us what color it's going to be. The Torah doesn't tell us what what portions are written in there. It doesn't say anything of that. It doesn't say how many little boxes there are in there. It doesn't say that either. It only says, wear tefillin. Put them between your eyes, which literally would be right here, and put them on your arm, that it does say, al yadecha. Right? Put them on your arm, but it doesn't say where on your arm. Right? That's it. So maybe I should put them on my palm. Again, if we don't have the oral Torah and it be attached together with the written Torah, it is impossible to understand, by the way, either. You can't have the oral Torah without the written Torah either. Because if you don't have the written Torah, then on what are we basing the teachings of the written Torah, of the oral Torah? So the oral Torah is needed to understand the written Torah, and the written Torah is needed to prove the truth and direct connection between the oral writings and the written. There's so much more to talk about, and we'll continue here. But for those of you who are joining us online, I think we're going to sign off here. If you have any questions, you're welcome to share your questions. But I'll just read a quote from the Talmud in Tractate Shabbat. It says, our sages taught, a non-Jew once came before Shammai and asked him, how many Torahs do you have? How many Torahs? 2, he replied, the written Torah and the oral Torah. Said the non-Jew, I believe you regarding the written Torah, but not regarding the oral Torah. Make me a convert on the condition that you teach me the written Torah only. What did Shammai do? He got angry, sent him away. The man then went before Hillel, who accepted him as a convert. On the first day, Hillel taught him Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Daled. At the following day's lesson, Hillel reversed the letters. So the convert protested and said, but yesterday you didn't teach me this way. You taught it to me the other way. So Hillel replied, aren't you anyway relying on me? Okay, then rely on me with respect to the oral Torah as well. All right? Hillel demonstrated that without the oral Torah, it is not possible to know even the basics of the alphabet. It is impossible to know the basics of Judaism without the oral Torah. Now, when we talk about morals and ethics, and we talk about conduct, proper conduct, we talk about how to deal with monetary disputes, how to deal with other types of offenses, we need to understand something. The Torah isn't written by human beings who have emotions and have feelings in that way. It's written by God, the creator of mankind, the creator of heaven and earth, who knows exactly what we're made out of, who knows our instincts, who knows our emotions, who knows our intellect, and who crafted us as human beings. He knows exactly what we need and how things need to be done to be ethical, moral, and proper. And that is, I think, an important thought, that whenever we look through a portion like Mishpatim, we look through the portions that are coming after about the tabernacle, and you think to yourself, I don't understand. What's the relevance of this? So it had a curtain that was this long or that tall, and it was specifically made of this crimson wool and that type. Who cares, really? What's the big deal? Right? And if you watch the video that we did this morning from Congregation Beth Yeshurun, we discussed one of the examples, one of the very, very relevant practical things you learn from what seems to be a tractate that talks about oxes that gore. Right? In Tractate Baba Kama. And you think to yourself, this is so irrelevant. Like, why do we need to discuss this? Why do we need to learn this? And why do we have Torah scholars pouring days and nights to try to understand every single word? And the answer is because every single word in the Torah is critical if we believe that it's the word of the Almighty. If you believe that it's a word, God forbid, either you think it's a word of man, where a man, even inspired with inspiration or whatever, Well, it reminds me almost of a story of a there was a great Torah leader who lived in New York City, passed away in 1986. Probably the biggest halachic decider in the history of the United States, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. Undisputed, world-class scholar. He wrote responsa, books and books and books of responsa to questions, relevant modern-day questions. And one of the rulings that he made was that in the city of New York, due to the amount of traffic, based on halacha, based on the Talmud, and his understanding of the very intricate details of the laws of Eruv, you cannot make an Eruv in the city of New York, period. Okay? That was his ruling, and that was for all the years that he was living, and for many years after that, and still today by most, observed there's no Eruv in the city of New York. Right? The halacha says, just so you know, the Talmud says that any city that has 600,000 people traveling through it a day is considered a thoroughfare, and you can't make a private domain out of it. That's very, very, very superficial understanding to very complex issues, but that's just the basic outline. So several years after Rabbi Feinstein passed away, there was a meeting of rabbis. And the rabbis convened to discuss whether or not they can uproot the ruling of Rabbi Feinstein. And the story has it that after a discussion back and forth and like this and like that, one man stands up. And he says, with all due respect to Rabbi Feinstein, but Rabbi Feinstein is a rabbi. And I'm a rabbi. Rabbi Feinstein said it's prohibited. And I say it's permitted. All right? So one of the other rabbis present stands up and says, so, Rabbi, would you be able to tell me how many pages there are in the tractate of Eruvin? To which he did not have an answer. He said, Rabbi Feinstein studied the tractate of Eruvin over 400 times, can tell you every single syllable in the tractate, knew it inside out, with every single commentary. And you're comparing yourself, he was a rabbi, I'm a rabbi, he said it's prohibited, I say it's permitted, you don't even know how many pages there are in the tractate, probably never even learned it. And you're comparing yourself, putting yourself at the same level, right? The idea is we have to be very, very careful before we just push away things that our sages tell us. Oh, they were man and I'm man. They were just humans. They were just humans. I heard someone once say, well, the rabbis were thinking about how to design a Jewish congregation or a Jewish community. So they came up with certain rules. Really? Is that what we made our rabbis to be? God forbid. The rabbis don't have any authority to make up rules. The rabbis can't do anything with regards to halacha if it's not sourced someplace in the Talmud, which is based on the Mishnah, which is based on the Tanakh, on the written law. You don't have the authority. I can't just come and say, you know what? There's a new custom here because I'm the rabbi. I decided whenever you come into synagogue, you got to go like this around your head. What are you going to say? He's a lunatic, right? Rabbis don't have rights to just make up rules. Rabbis don't make up rules. After very clear understanding of all of those sources, understanding every single word in the Talmud, understanding every word in the Mishnah, which the Talmud elaborates on, and every word in our Tanakh, then perhaps, and understanding all of the other sources of halacha, then perhaps we can open our mouth about it. But I think the big challenge that we're facing is we're living in a generation where people think like, well, if I'm not in the mood, I'll just say it's just a bunch of rabbis, right? It's not my... I don't agree with the rabbis. I don't care. I don't agree with Rambam. Right? I don't agree with Maimonides. Or I don't know... That's like... I mean, Maimonides knew every single part of the Torah. He wasn't giving rulings in halacha based on his own intuition. He was giving on it based on solid understanding of everything that came prior to him, including knowing all of the midrash. I've heard people tell me, that's midrash. Yeah, that's midrash. Midrash is Torah too, right? Kabbalah, right, is Torah too. And every single commentary is not just a rabbi who says, you know what, your opinion's that, my opinion's this, and just too bad. They had to source their opinion on something. They had to base it on something. So when it comes to morals and ethics, the challenge is that if I have a certain prejudice towards something because of a life experience, or so I can have certain leanings because of my own personal prejudice, and that's a very dangerous place to be in. Because then I can bend it however I want to bend it. And that's not what the Torah is not up to negotiation. The Torah is a divine document given by the Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. To the degree where it says, Histakla ba'oraisa bara alma. God looked at the Torah, which was the blueprint, and from there created the world. So how can we say that the rabbis wrote it? If God had the Torah in his hand prior to creating the world, and it is the blueprint of all of creation, it doesn't make any sense. Well, so you're going to say, well, the story of Abraham didn't happen yet. Right? That's an element of the Torah. That's an element of the Torah to teach us the morals and the ethics. But the principles of the Torah were always there. On the contrary, we see that even before the Torah was given, it says that Abraham observed the Torah, and Isaac observed the Torah, and Jacob observed the Torah, even though it wasn't given yet. How could they observe it? Because what is the essence of the Torah? We discussed this last week. What is the essence of the Torah? What is the purpose? Okay, we have 613 commandments. Why do we need 613? A little bit obsessive. No, come on, we can deal with 10. Give me 5. 613? It's a little bit overdoing it, no? So if we see the Torah as commandments, do, or don't, then you're right, you got a big problem. That's not what the Torah is. Judaism, by the way, is not about a religion. It's not a set of rules. Judaism is about a relationship, a living relationship between us and God. And if we see the Torah as a tool through which we connect to God, and each mitzvah is a pathway, a channel through which we get elevated in that relationship, it's a whole different story. And that's what our sages teach us. A mitzvah is not there just to give you another rule, another instruction. It's rather giving you another opportunity to connect to God. It's a way for you to enrich that relationship. So God should bless us all that we should take the words of the Torah and uplift ourselves, elevate our communities, and take every word to inspire us and to inspire those around us. For those of you online, we're sorry we have to sign off here, but thank you for joining us. Please like and share if you did like and enjoyed it. It's right below, link it.
Yeah,
right?
Do that too.
Link it, right? And thank you for joining us, and you're welcome to join us here live, in person. They say it's more exciting, right, Jorge? Right? They say it's more exciting in person than over the internet. So it's so wonderful to spend the time with all of you, and sorry we have to sign off, my friends on Facebook. Have a good night and a wonderful Shabbos.